Mark knew his choice would bring trouble. But when he looked into Lyra's eyes, so full of fear, hope, and questions, he could not leave her behind. He reached out and gently took her hand. Her fingers were cold at first, then warmed in his grip. "Come on," Mark said. "We need to move." "Oh, the council won't be happy when they find out you're gone." Lyra nodded. "I don't want to go back, not until I understand what's happening inside me." The two of them slipped into the shadows of the city. Mark led Lyra through quiet streets and empty courtyards. The city that once felt peaceful now felt like a trap. At every turn, Mark watched for guards. The Scifi were not violent, but he knew they would do whatever it took to protect their way of life. They reached the edge of the city just as dawn painted the sky in soft gold and pink. Beyond the city lay the wildlands, thick forests, tall hills and deep valleys untouched by Scifi hands. "We'll hide out there," Mark said. "It'll give us time to think." Lyra hesitated. "No one goes into the wildlands. The council says it is dangerous." Mark smiled a little. "Faced danger before, and I'd rather face it with you than leave you alone." Together, they entered the forest. The air was cool and fresh, filled with the sound of birds and the whisper of wind through leaves. Strange plants grew tall around them, and small animals darted through the undergrowth. For a while, they walked in silence. Lyra's mind was full of questions. Why had Mark's presence unlocked these feelings? What did it mean to feel so strongly for someone she had only just met? And could she ever go back to being as empty as before? Mark kept his eyes sharp, leading them deeper into the forest. He had learned long ago to trust his instincts. And right now his instincts told him they were not safe. The Scifi would not let them go so easily by midday. They found shelter in a small cave hidden beneath the roots of a giant tree. The cave was cool and dry, and it gave them a place to rest. Mark gathered some fruit from nearby bushes, and they shared a simple meal as they ate. Lyra spoke softly. "Do humans always feel like this? So full of warmth, longing, fear, joy?" Mark thought for a moment. "Yes, we feel all those things. Sometimes all at once. It can be hard. But it's what makes life worth living." Lyra touched her chest, where her heart beat fast. "It's so strange, but I don't want to lose it. Even if it scares me." Mark nodded. "That's brave of you. Most people are afraid of change, but you're facing it." Before Lyra could answer, a sound reached their ears. The soft hymn of a Scifi search craft. Mark stiffened. He pulled Lyra deeper into the cave, out of sight. "They're looking for us," he whispered. "We need to stay quiet." The craft hovered above the forest, its light sweeping through the trees. Mark held his breath as the lights passed over their hiding place, then moved on. The craft drifted away, but Mark knew it would return. "They won't stop," Lyra said. "They'll search until they find us." "Then we have to keep moving," Mark said. "There must be somewhere safe on this planet, somewhere the council can't reach." They left the cave and headed deeper into the wildlands. The land grew wilder. The trees stood taller, their branches like arms reaching for the sky. Strange glowing flowers lit their path, and streams of clear water crossed their way as they walked. Lyra felt the pull inside her growing stronger. She stayed close to Mark, drawn to his kindness, his strength, and the way he treated her not as a problem, but as a person. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. By nightfall, they found another shelter, an old ruin hidden beneath vines and moss. The building had been made of stone and metal, long forgotten by the Scifi. Mark guessed it was from a time before the Scifi gave up emotion. They entered the ruin and found a small chamber. Strange symbols covered the walls. In the center was a device, dark and lifeless after centuries of silence. "What is this place?" Lyra asked. "I think it's from your people's past," Mark said. "A time when they felt like you do now. Maybe this place holds answers." Lyra touched the cold stone. "It feels familiar, like a dream I can almost remember." Mark set up a small camp. They ate in silence, listening to the sounds of the night, the calls of distant animals, the soft wind in the trees. Ruin felt safe for now. As they rested, Liara spoke again. "Mark, thank you for not leaving me, for helping me." Mark smiled. "You don't have to thank me. You're not alone, Liara. We'll face this together." Outside, the search crafts passed by, their lights sweeping the land. But in the heart of the ruin, Mark and Liara found a small peace and a promise that they would not give up, no matter what came next. The ship Dauntless Hope moved silently through the endless black of space. Its silver hull reflected the soft light of the nearby star, and the planet EO7 came into view. It was a beautiful world, green forests, wide blue seas, and tall silver mountains. A place that looked peaceful. But for Lieutenant Mark Selden, peace was never something to trust too quickly. Mark stood at the viewing window of the ship. His brown eyes were focused, and his face showed the kind of calm that came from years of service in space. Behind him, the crew worked at their stations, preparing for humanity's first meeting with the beings who lived on this planet, the Scifi. "Final checks complete, sir," said Commander Reyes. "Landing party ready to deploy." Mark nodded. "Meet our hosts." Soon, the small shuttle broke away from the main ship and entered the atmosphere. The clouds of EO7 glowed softly in the sunlight. As they descended, Mark saw strange towers of glass-like stone, standing high above the forests. This was the Scifi city, where the meeting would take place. The shuttle touched down on a clear platform. As the air outside was fresh and cool, the Scifi were already waiting. They stood tall and still, with pale blue skin and silver hair that caught the wind. Their faces were calm and without expression. They wore robes of white and gray that seemed to flow like water when they moved. Mark stepped forward. He kept his hands open and empty, a sign of peace. The Scifi leader, an elder named Kelthor, came to greet him. "Welcome to EOS-7, human," Kelthor said, his voice soft but clear. Words came through a small device that translated the Scifi language. "We have watched your kind from afar. You're curious and bold. Let us hope you are also wise." "We come in peace," Mark said. "Wish only to learn from you and share what we know." Kelthar gave a slow nod. "And walk with us." As they moved through the city, Mark noticed the Scifi people. They worked quietly, spoke little, and showed no emotion. There were no sounds of laughter or anger, no music, no play, just silence and duty. But among them was one who did not act the same. Mark first saw her at the steps of a tall building. She was young by the look of her. Maybe near his age, if he guessed right. Her silver hair was longer than the others, and her blue skin seemed to glow softly in the sunlight. But it was her eyes that caught him. They were bright and fixed on him with a strange look, a look of wonder, curiosity, and something he could not name. For a moment, Mark forgot the cold quiet of the city. He felt as if they were the only two beings on the planet. The girl did not look away. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to speak but could not find the words. Kelthor saw the girl and stopped. "Liara," he said, his voice a little sharper now. "You should not be here." Liara blinked and lowered her head, but not before Mark saw a strange flush of color rise to her cheeks. She turned quickly and disappeared into the building. Mark felt a strange pull in his chest, but he pushed it aside. He had a job to do. The meeting began inside the Great Hall. The Scifi spoke of science, peace, and the order they kept in their world. They spoke of how they had removed all emotion from their lives long ago, so that war and pain would never return. They asked questions about Earth, about humanity's ways. Mark answered as best he could, but his mind kept drifting back to Lear's eyes. When the meeting ended, Kelthor spoke privately to Mark. "You must return to your ship tonight. We will speak more tomorrow. There is much to consider." "Hey, Mark." Agreed. He walked with his team back toward the shuttle. But as they neared it, he heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned, and there was Liara. She stood at the edge of the platform, her hands clenched at her sides. Her chest rose and fell as if she had been running. Her eyes were wide, full of that same wonder. But now there was something more, a question, a hunger for something she did not understand. "I felt strange," she said, her voice trembling. When I saw you. When you looked at me. What have you done to me? Mark raised his hands, confused. I didn't do anything, I swear. But Liara shook her head. No, I feel it. A fire inside, a pull toward you. We do not feel such things. We do not burn with hunger. For another, and yet I do. Her words hit Mark like a shock. He had come here to make peace, not to bring confusion or pain. He could see she was afraid of herself, of what she felt, of what it meant. Liara, he said gently, I don't know what's happening, but I promise I didn't mean for this. She took a step back, as if afraid of what more his presence might do to her. Then she turned and ran into the night, leaving Mark standing alone on the platform. The stars of Ahosavin shining cold above him. And so, the first meeting between human and Sarati would bring not just new knowledge, but danger, change, and a mystery that would shape the future of both their worlds. Mark Selden could not sleep that night. The soft hum of the dauntless hope felt louder than usual. He lay on his narrow bed, staring at the ceiling of his small cabin. His mind kept replaying Lyra's face, those wide eyes, the trembling in her voice, the way she ran into the darkness. What had happened to her? He had done nothing wrong. He had spoken kindly, with respect. It caught me, and yet Liara believed that he had caused something inside her, something that frightened her. Mark felt a weight in his chest, a mix of guilt and worry. Early the next morning, a message came from the surface. The Sarati Council had summoned him. The words were clear. Come alone. Dressed in his clean uniform and took the shuttle down to the Sarati city. The sky was clear and blue, and the tall towers of glass stone shone in the sunlight. But as he stepped onto the platform, Mark felt a cold wind of tension. The Sarati guards stood stiffly, their faces blank, their silver eyes watching his every move. They led him into the grand hall of the council. The room was silent. The walls were smooth and white, and the air felt heavy. The elders sat in a half circle, their robes flowing around them like still water. At the center was Kelthar, his face as calm as ever, but his voice carried a sharp edge. Lieutenant Selden, Kelthar said, do you know why you were here? Mark stood tall. No, sir. I was called, so I came. I wish to understand. Kelthar's eyes narrowed just slightly. One of our young ones, Liara, has shown troubling signs since meeting you. She feels things that no Sarati has felt in 1,000 years. Feelings we buried deep to protect our people, and now. Because of your presence, that danger rises again. Mark's heart sank. I never wanted to harm Liara. I only spoke. To her, I meant no disrespect. The council whispered among themselves. Their voices were soft, but Mark could feel their fear. You do not understand, said another elder, a woman named Cirith. We chose long ago to live without emotion. Once, we were like you. Our hearts burned with desire, with anger, with joy, with sorrow. But those fires brought war. We nearly destroyed ourselves, so we removed the cause. We silenced our hearts. Kelthar leaned forward. But now, one of us feels again. And it began with you. Mark shook his head. I didn't cause this. Maybe I reminded Liara of something lost. But this isn't a sickness. You can't blame me for what was already. Inside her, the elders fell silent. Mark could see the battle in their eyes. They wanted to believe him, but they were afraid of what Lyra's feelings might awaken in all of them. Kelthar spoke at last. You must leave, human. Your ship must go. We cannot risk more contact. We cannot let this spread. Mark opened his mouth to argue, but then stopped. He saw that their minds were set. Words would not change this now. I understand, he said quietly. I will speak to my captain. We'll prepare to leave. Kelthar nodded. We will give you time to gather your things, but no more meetings. No more contact. 2 guards led Mark back toward the shuttle platform. But as they walked through the city, Mark noticed something. The Sarati people were no longer as calm as before. He saw them watching him, their eyes curious, some even uncertain. And he wondered, was Lyra's change already? Touching others. At the shuttle, the guards left him. Mark paused, looking out over the city. Towers gleamed, the forests beyond swayed in the wind, and the wide sky seemed endless. And somewhere out there, Liara was alone, confused and afraid. This isn't right, Mark thought. She deserves answers. She deserves help. He was about to board the shuttle when a soft voice called his name. Mark. He turned. Liara stood at the edge of the platform, hidden in the shadows of a tall pillar. Her silver hair was loose around her face, and her blue skin seemed pale. Liara? Mark stepped toward her, but she held up a hand. I had to see you, she said, her voice trembling. They say you are leaving, that I caused it, that I have brought danger to our people. No, Mark said firmly. That didn't bring danger. You brought truth. Something they've been afraid of for too long. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. It was the first time Mark had seen a Scifi cry. The drops glistened on her cheeks like tiny stars. I don't know what's happening to me, she whispered. I feel empty when you are gone. I feel warm when you are near. My heart beats fast. My mind is full of thoughts. I cannot stop. Is this what it means to feel? Mark's heart ached for her. Yes, he said gently. That's what it means. But it's nothing to fear. It means you're alive. Fully alive. Liara took a step forward. Then help me. Don't leave me alone in this. Mark looked back at the shuttle, then at Liara. The right thing was clear. I won't leave, ask ChatGPT. The night was cold, but inside the old ruin, Mark and Liara felt safe for a little while. The wind outside howled softly, but the thick stone walls kept it out. Mark watched the stars through a gap in the roof, thinking about the dauntless hope. High above. He wondered if his crew was searching for him or waiting for his return. But his heart told him he was where he needed to be here, helping Liara. Liara sat on the floor, her fingers tracing the strange symbols on the walls. The markings seemed to call to her. She could not read them, but they felt familiar, as if some deep part of her remembered their meaning. I think this place is old, she said softly. Older than the council. Older than the city. Maybe older than the peace my people now live in. Mark nodded. It feels that way. Maybe this ruin holds the truth about your people's past. Maybe about why you feel what you feel. Liara turned to him, her eyes full of hope. Can we find that truth? I don't want to live in fear of what's inside me. Mark smiled. We can try. Let's look around. Lit small hand. Lamps and searched the ruin. The walls showed images carved long ago, pictures of Scifi people who did not look cold or empty like those of today. In the carvings, they danced, held hands, laughed, and even wept. Their faces showed joy, sorrow, love, and anger. Liara touched a carving of a Scifi woman holding a child. They felt like I do now. Yes, Mark said. Your people weren't always like the council says. They once had feelings, strong feelings. They moved deeper into the ruin and found a doorway hidden behind fallen stones. Together, they cleared the way and entered a small chamber. At its center was a round table with a device shaped like a flower. Mark brushed the dust from it. The device lit up with a soft hum. What is it? Liara asked. Mark shook his head. I don't know, but let's see if it can tell us anything. Pressed a small symbol that glowed on the side. The room filled with light, and an image appeared in the air, a Scifi elder from long ago. The figure spoke in the Scifi language, but the device translated for Mark. We were once a people of passion and power, the figure said, but our hearts led us to war. Our cities burned, our lands were broken, and our people died by the millions. In the end, we chose to change. We built devices to quiet our hearts, and we taught our children to live without feeling. We chose peace over passion, order over chaos. The image faded, and silence filled the room. Liara sat down slowly. So, it's true we once felt, and we chose to forget. Mark sat beside her. Yes. But your feelings weren't created by me. They were always inside you, hidden, sleeping. My presence didn't cause them. It woke what was already there. Liara looked at him, her eyes shining. So I am not broken. No, Mark said gently. You're not broken. You're whole. You're the first of your kind in a long time to feel as your people once did. Liara breathed in deeply, as if the air itself felt new. What should we do now? Before Mark could answer, they heard the soft hum of a search craft outside. Lights shone through the trees, sweeping the ground. The Scifi hunters had found their trail. We have to move, Mark said. Oh, but now we have something more. Proof. We can show the council the truth. Maybe they'll listen. Liara stood tall. Or maybe they'll try to hide it again. Mark nodded. Maybe, but we can't run forever. If we want real peace, we have to face them. They left the ruin and moved quietly through the forest. The night air was sharp, and the sound of the search craft grew louder. Mark led Liara toward higher ground, where the trees grew thick and the rocks offered cover. Suddenly, a bright light caught them. The search craft had found them. A voice called out from above. Stop. You were ordered to return at once. Mark grabbed Liara's hand. Run. They dashed through the trees, the search craft close behind. Branches whipped past them, and roots caught at their feet. But Mark kept going, pulling Liara with him. His mind raced for a plan. At last, they reached a cliff overlooking a wide river. The water below rushed fast and wild. The search craft hovered behind them, its lights BLS ChatGPT. Mark and Liara stood at the edge of the cliff. The river below roared like thunder, its wild waters crashing against sharp rocks. Behind them, the Scifi search craft floated, its bright lights like suns in the night. A voice echoed through the air, sharp and commanding. Stop. Do not run. You will be brought back to the council. Mark shielded Liara with his body. His mind raced for answers. We can't jump. The river would kill us. We can't fight. They outnumber us. But he also knew he could not let them take Liara out when they held the truth in their hands. Liara's voice trembled. What do we do? Mark took a deep breath. We don't run. We show them we are not afraid. We show them the truth. Before the Scifi could act, Mark raised his hands high. We surrender, he called, but take us to the council. We have something they must see. The craft landed, and Scifi guards stepped out. Their faces were cold, their silver, eyes without feeling. They bound Mark and Liara's hands with soft ropes that hummed with energy, but they did not harm them. You will answer for this, one guard said. You have broken our laws. Mark met his gaze calmly. Then let us face the council. Let them judge us. The journey back to the city was quiet. The craft flew above the wildlands, the forest dark beneath them. Liara sat close to Mark. Though her hands were tied, she felt stronger knowing he was beside her. I'm not afraid, she whispered. Good, Mark said. You have nothing to be ashamed of. At dawn, they arrived at the citadel, the great tower where the Scifi council ruled. The city was waking, but already news of Mark and Liara's capture had spread. Yes. Scifi people gathered silently in the streets, their faces curious, their eyes watching. Mark saw something new in their looks, not just fear or anger, but questions, doubt, even hope. Kelthur sat at the center, his face as calm as ever, but his eyes sharp. You have broken our trust, Kelthur said. You ran from our protection. You brought danger to our people. Mark stepped forward as far as his bonds allowed. His voice was firm. We brought the truth, and you need to see it. He nodded to Liara. She took a small disc from her pocket, the recording device they had found in the ruin. The guards tried to stop her, but Kelthur raised his hand. Let them show what they wish, the elder said. Then they will answer for their actions. Liara placed the disc on the floor. A soft light filled the hall. The image of the ancient Scifi elder appeared again. The voice spoke, and all in the hall heard the truth of their past. The wars, the choice to erase emotion to save their world. The council fell silent. The people in the hall, the guards, even the watchers outside the citadel listened. When the image faded, Kelthur spoke quietly. This is a dark part of our history. We hid it to protect our future. Mark shook his head. But you can't hide forever. Liara's feelings prove that. You can't erase what's inside you. It will come back, no matter how long you try to keep it buried. Liara stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. I am not sick. I am not broken. I am what we used to be, and I will not be silent. A murmur ran through the hall. The younger Serati looked at each other, unsure. Some seemed afraid, but others looked moved, faces softened, as if the first cracks in their walls were beginning to form. One of the council elders rose. What do you want from us? Mark answered, asked ChatGPT. Mark's voice echoed through the grand hall. His words hung in the air, reaching every corner of the citadel. I want you to listen, he said, his tone calm but strong. Not to me, but to Liara. Listen to her heart. Listen to your people. Don't fear what's inside you. Feelings don't have to bring destruction. They can bring hope. They can bring a better future. The hall was silent. The council members looked at one another, unsure. For so long they had believed emotion was the enemy. But now the truth stood before them, alive in Lyra's bright eyes and strong voice. Kelthar rose slowly. His silver hair glowed softly in the morning light streaming through the tall windows. His eyes, cold for so many years, showed a flicker of something else. Thought, doubt, maybe even sorrow. Liara, he said gently, you are the first of our kind to feel in many lifetimes. We feared this would happen. We feared feeling would bring ruin again. Liara stood tall. But what if it brings life? What if it brings strength? What if we were wrong to lock away our hearts? The Serati in the hall whispered among themselves. The younger ones seemed moved. Some touched their chests, as if wondering what their own hearts might feel, if given the chance. Kelthar looked at Mark. You have risked much for one not of your own people. Why? Mark smiled. Because feelings like Lyra's are not a danger, they're a gift. Humanity learned that the hard way too. We struggle. Yes, but our hearts give us courage, kindness, love. They help us build, not just destroy. Kelthar was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to the council. We must decide together. But I see now that perhaps our way has cost us more than we knew. It is time to reconsider. An elder protested. But if we let feeling return, will war return too? Kelthar shook his head. Not if we learn. Not if we guide. Not if we trust ourselves again. A choice lay before them. The council could cling to the old ways, or they could take a new path, one filled with risk, but also with hope. At last, Kelthar spoke the words that would change Serati history. We will begin again. Slowly, carefully. We will study this gift Liara has found, and we will teach, not hide, what it means to feel. No longer will we fear our own hearts. A great murmur filled the citadel. The Serati people, for the first time in countless years, felt the stir of something powerfully motion awakening, like the dawn after a long night. Lyra's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were not of fear or sorrow. They were of joy. She turned to Mark. We did it together. Mark nodded. You did it? I just helped you see what was already inside. Kelthar stepped forward. He untied Mark's hands himself. We owe you thanks, human. You have given us a second chance. Mark rubbed his wrists and smiled. That's what friends do. And so, a new chapter began for the Serati. Mark and the dauntless Hope as their allies. They started small steps toward feeling again. Schools were opened to teach the young about emotion. Old records, once hidden, were shared freely. The people learned to smile, to laugh, to comfort one another. Liara became a symbol of this change. Where once she had felt alone, now she walked proudly among her people. Helping guide them toward a future filled with feeling, Mark stayed on EO7 for a time, helping as a friend and teacher. But at last the day came when the dauntless Hope had to leave. At the city's edge, Liara and Mark stood together one last time. Thank you, Mark, she said, her voice warm and full of life. I will never forget what you've done for me. For all of us. Mark looked at her with pride. Shh. You don't need me anymore, Liara. You have your people now, and your heart will guide you. They stood for a moment in silence, watching the sun rise over the silver mountains. Then Mark boarded his shuttle, and the dauntless Hope rose into the sky, leaving behind a world forever changed as the ship sped toward the stars. Mark looked back one last time at EO7. He felt at peace. Knowing that humanity had not brought ruin to this world, but a chance for it to heal, and somewhere deep inside, he felt sure that one day, when the Serati were ready, they would join the stars not as cold, empty beings, but as friends, allies, and equals. The stars shone bright ahead, and Mark smiled. The universe was wide, and full of wonders still waiting to be found. And wherever humanity went, it would carry with it the greatest strength of all, not power, not weapons, but the power of the heart.